Welcome to Matt's Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. I trust all is well, and the week has gone well as well. Let's start with some macro thoughts because there's been plenty going on. The dollar is trading at the lowest level in 9 months, having erased the so-called Trump bump. All this means that the dollar is getting less support from US interest rates. At Kit Jux, strategist at Societe Generale, the stronger dollar needs higher yields than it did before because the rest of the world is moving. On the 22nd of May, I wrote a piece called Apocalypse Trump Will Hurt the US Dollar. And take a look at that because I sort of forecast this scenario developing. Dollar's been getting less and less great this year. Bloomberg dollar index at lowest in 9 months. This is from David Inglis. Look at the jump in the 10 two-year spread as well. The fear index jumped 22% on a coordinated shift in a more hawkish direction. That's from Holger. Global stocks survive as the best major asset class of the year so far. Enter the second half of the year ahead of all major asset classes, with the MSCI All-Country World Index wrapping up its best first half in 19 years. Coming in a close second, the euro, which has climbed on bets. The ECB is preparing to unwind stimulus. Oil, meanwhile, entered its first bear market since August, amid an oversupply of crude. Home thoughts, this quote from the LA Review of Books got my attention. You are an insignificant speck of dust in the universe. Took me to Rumi. We come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust, he says. As you enter the Mausoleum in Konya, this is Rumi's mausoleum, which I visited. As you are entering, this is what is written at the entrance. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come yet again. Come, come. I have visited mosques, temples, churches. I sang hymns in Westminster Abbey when I was in school at Westminster. But that welcome blew me away. It still does, sends a shiver up my spine. We visited Konya one evening, and then we watched a sema in the basement of that mausoleum. We came out in the early evening, and we were plain intoxicated. And in the light of this enormous full moon, pretty unforgettable. From there, let me take you to my favorite Robert Frank photograph, and the Jack Kerouac, obviously whom I like, so I'm always quoting on the road, says this of this photograph. In his introduction to The Americans, Kerouac describes this photograph as a long shot of night road arrowing forlorn to immensities and flat of impossible to believe America in New Mexico under the prisoner's moon. I like this photograph. Good morning from Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate is this extraordinary place here in Kenya, which we visited a couple of times. And then a few children died in a flash flood because you're right in kind of the basement of the earth. And it can flood very easily, so it put us off. I like this quote from Richard Kapuscinski. There is a lot of warmth in an old cognac, a lot of sun, and it will go to one's head calmly without hurry. Frank Stella painted this high-energy Marrakesh in 1964 using fluorescent alkyd on canvas. This is at the Saatchi Gallery. The Saatchi Gallery is a must-visit if you are in London. I got seriously lost in the Zoom Pavilion. And the Zoom Pavilion is an interactive installation that consists of immersive projection on 3 walls, fed by 12 computerized surveillance systems trained on the public This piece uses face recognition algorithms to detect the presence of participants and record their spatial relationship within the exhibition space. Zoom Pavilion is at once an experimental platform for self-representation and a giant microscope to connect the public to each other and track their assembly. Independent robotic cameras zoom in to amplify the images of the public with up to 35 times magnification. The zooming sequences are disorientating as they change the entire image landscape from easily recognizable wide shots of the crowd to abstract close-ups. The whole installation is a fluid state of camera movement highlighting different participants, creating a constantly changing animation based on optical amplification and tracking. Pretty remarkable, I found. Why your real age may be older or younger than your years. This is an article in the New Scientist. Do take a look, saying age is a peculiar concept. We tend to think of it as the number of birthdays we have celebrated, our chronological age. But this is just one indicator of the passage of time. We also have a biological age, a measure of how quickly the cells in our body are deteriorating compared with the general population. And these two figures don't always match up. Pontifex, the Pope, says, sharpen your gaze in order to see the signs God shows us in reality. David Yarrow, I wanted an image that celebrates the life of the King of the North. He is the star of this image. I was a bystander with a decent camera. Political reflections. Over the weekend, I wrote that over in the east, China has now secured and militarized its islands, and the pivot to Asia is as dead in the water as is Osama bin Laden. And Reuters is reporting that China is building new military facilities on the South China Sea islands. A US think tank reported on Thursday. The Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, part of Washington's Center for Strategic and International Studies, said new satellite images show missile shelters and radar and communications facilities being built on the Fairy Cross, Mischief and Subi reefs in the Spratly Islands. The United States has criticized China's build-up of military facilities on the artificial islands and is concerned they could be used to restrict free movement through the South China Sea, an important trade route. Look, as I said, China has now secured and militarized those islands, and the pivot to Asia is dead. And President Trump seems to be giving them a free pass. Now, let's go to President Trump's tweets from yesterday. The first one was new sugar deal negotiated with Mexico. It's a very good one for both Mexico and the US. Had no deal for many years, which hurt US badly. No problem. Second one, I heard poorly rated Morning Joe speaks badly of me, don't watch any more. Then how come low IQ crazy Micah along with Psycho Joe came? Third, to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve and insisted on joining me. She was bleeding badly from a facelift. I said no. And I said, it's just amazing, isn't it? He was going to showboat his insanity on a public timeline. I mean, where does this end? His press officer said the president, again, isn't going to be someone who's bullied. Stephen King, the president, is a hurtful, bullying, boorish, ridiculous, undignified, childish asshat. And it hurts to say that. One theory Bloomberg had for the Wall Street sell-off was that President Trump's tweets about crazy Micah and Psycho Joe were not exactly presidential. I like this quote of the day from the Bangladeshi economist and entrepreneur Muhammad Yunus. Do take a look. Dead on arrival, Philippine police use hospitals to hide drug war killings since late 2016. Police have delivered hundreds of drug suspects to Manila hospitals. A Reuters investigation has revealed almost all were dead on arrival. Witnesses and family members say they were executed and their bodies removed from the scene in a police cover-up. The residents of Old Balara hid in their homes when gunfire erupted in their Manila district last September. They didn't see the police operation that killed 7 drug suspects that night. But they witnessed the gory aftermath, and it haunts them still. That night, Helena Alim said she watched police haul away the men's bodies, leaving trails of blood. They were dragged down the alley like pigs, she said. Her neighbor, Len Len, said she saw 3 bodies, face down and motionless, piled at the end of the alley while police stood calmly by. It was at least an hour, according to residents, before the victims were thrown into a truck and taken to hospital in what a police report said was a bid to save their lives. Old Balara's chief, the elected head of the district, told Reuters he was perplexed. They were already dead, Alan Francis said, so why take them to hospital? An analysis of crime data from 2 of Metro Manila's 5 police districts and interviews with doctors, law enforcement officials, and victims' families point to one answer. Police were sending corpses to hospitals to destroy evidence at crime scenes and hide the fact that they were executing drug suspects. How do we get out if there's a fire in Yorkshire? G4S tenants live in fear. It's quite extraordinary. Obviously, the numbers are going to be so much higher than are currently declared around that Grenfell fire. Can the Qatar crisis be resolved? Asked New Yorker. The country is one of those small, oil-rich nations that looks like a bank waiting to be robbed by invaders or coup makers. And I was saying to a friend of mine who's in Qatar that the decapitation of Qatar is inversely correlated to the price of oil. Which is the point that the New Yorker is making. International markets, Facebook boasts a quarter of the world among its users. Incredible, isn't it? Let's go to the currency markets because that's been seeing plenty of action of late. 114.08 euro dollar got close to my target of 114.50. Dollar index 95.59. Japanese yen 112.02. Swiss franc 0.9568. The pound 130.10. Aussie, let's take a look at that. 0.7674. India rupee 64.765. Very stable currency. South Korean won 11.4383. The Rial 330.43. Egyptian pound 18.12. And the Rand back over 13 at 13.0441. The pound has hit a 7-day hot streak. Its last trading at 1.3008. It's headed higher in my view. The euro is up 7.5% versus the dollar in the second quarter from 106.50 to 114.40. Its best quarter since 2010. I like this Shukawa's Junsai with tiger prawn, water lily bulbs, Japanese Cape gooseberry, and shiso flower. Looks pretty good. The Australian dollar had an interesting day. It topped 77 in the morning, and then Bank of America downgraded China GDP by 0.4 from 6.8 to 6.4, I think, and we're now at 0.7674, high correlation with China economic news. Obviously, Australian stocks got poleaxed today, biggest drop since November sell-off. You're looking at a 2 standard deviation move lower. This is via David Inglis. This is what I mean. We've suddenly seen a return of price action and price movements. Commodity markets, gold is around 1242. It's a curious place it is. It's in no man's land in my view. We could go back up to close to 1300. We could go down to 1220. You remember when it found support around there. Oil has been having a bit of a rebound, added 0.6% in New York after rising 5.6% in the previous 6 sessions. Its last trading, let me check for you, 45.37, 45, it's also going to get 45.50, maybe 46, but make no mistake, this is a counter-trend rebound. Spring wheat, this is a chart from Stalwart. Look at that. The price of raw avocado just hit a fresh all-time high. That's via zero hedge. Among other things, the record high price has been blamed on soaring demand as American per capita consumption jumped to 6.9 pounds in 2015 versus 3.5 pounds in 2006. People have been drawn to the fruit not just for its taste, but also for its healthy oils and fats. A trend borne out in the US by Starbucks' announcement last month selling avocado sandwich spread. You have increased consumption in China and other areas of the world like Europe. They're pulling a lot more of the Mexican crop, so there's less available for the US. As Bloomberg reported in April, Mexico supplies 82% of the avocados eaten north of the border. Its shipments into the US surged to 1.76 billion pounds in 2015 from just 24 million pounds in 2000. As a result, in late April, a 10-kilogram box of Hass avocados from the state of Michoacan, Mexico's biggest producer, cost $27.89. The price was more than double what it was a year earlier, and the highest in data going back 19 years. I love avocado, and probably the best avocado I've ever tasted was at the Fairmont Mara, and I'll put up an image of it. They have an organic garden there, and it really was delicious. So delicious, I took a photograph of it, which I'm now using to make the point about avocado. And on the 8th of May, I wrote about how it had found an off-ramp and was at all-time highs. The important point about this is it's very interesting, isn't it? And I think a lot of money can be made by just predicting millennial patterns as one looks forward. India's goods and service tax is badly designed, but a momentous step, says Bloomberg. Let's come on to Africa. We must change the lens with which we look at Africa from the traditional development mindset to an investment mindset. This is Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank. American companies come to Africa bringing their notebooks, while the Chinese companies come to the continent with their checkbooks, he said in a keynote address, in which he urged a reversal of the sharp drop in Africa's exports to the United States since 2014, correlated to oil prices, and encouraged American firms to take a closer look at the opportunities Africa has to offer. The 29th AU Summit, a number of ongoing crises and flashpoints should be on the AU's agenda, says ISS Africa. I regret that for reasons of health I cannot this year address to you my message in the usual manner. This is President Kabila. Kabila was due to address the nation on Thursday on the eve of Independence Day. Instead, scrolling text on screen attributed to Kabila read, I regret that for reasons of health I cannot this year address to you my message in the usual manner. An advisor to Kabila told Reuters earlier the government would not hold its annual Independence Day military parade on Friday because of security concerns. In the capital, Kinshasa, unknown assailants with firearms and machetes attacked a prison. And I think they suspended the annual Independence Day military parade on Friday because that would have been a big come on to the street. And what do I mean by the street? Take you back to a piece I wrote in June 2016. The revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form not in the place of production, but in the street. This comes from Paul Virilio's extraordinary book, Speed and Politics. The revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form not in the place of production, but in the street, where for a moment it stops being a cog in the technical machine and itself becomes a motor, machine of attack, in other words, a producer of speed. Staying with that June 2016 article, I was talking about how Kabila had outwitted Moise Katumbi by removing him from the street and the Congo entirely, and said it might well prove a cleverly administered technical knockout. I was saying that the street is a tinderbox and it has become a major area of political contestation across the continent. And I think that's what made him cry off. Aging palm as far as the eye can see in Yali Gimba, Mongala Province, Northeast DR Congo from Thomas M. Wilson. NGOs file Rwanda genocide lawsuit against French bank BNP Paribas. 3 NGOs, the Thursday that they filed this lawsuit against BNP Paribas, accusing the bank of complicity in the 1994 genocide of the Tutsi minority in Rwanda. The groups accuse the French bank of financing the purchase of 80 tons of arms used to carry out genocide by the Hutu regime, even though the bank had to have known the genocidal intentions of the country's authorities. BNP authorized the transfer of $1.3 million to the regime in June 1994, 1 month after the UN had placed an embargo on weapons deliveries to Rwanda, the group said in a statement. They accused the bank of complicity in genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. A spokesman of the bank told AFP it could not comment on the claims, saying it did not yet have sufficient details. South African oil shares up 1.39% this year, but is in fact at 6-month lows. Dollar versus rand back over 13, but still 13.40, 12.60 is the current range. Egyptian pound firm at this level of 18.12. Nigerian oil share up 23.8% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index up 15.55% year to date. Mozambique's $727 million Eurobond due in January 2023 has rallied from a low of 55 cents on the dollar in mid-January to 73 cents on the dollar. I spoke about this and actually put out a buy notice when it was down at 55. Look, they've mismanaged things, they spent money they didn't have, but make no mistake, gas is a crown jewel. How 5.2 million new voters impact the battle for power, Daily Nation. And a while back in 2016, I was talking about this, saying the demographic bulge in Africa is now arriving at voting age. This is that moment, its importance cannot be gainsaid. I think, it's going to be a very interesting development to watch, how this election plays out here in Kenya. 50% of Kenya's registered voters are between 18 and 35 years old. They can influence the outcome of the general election. As I wrote over the weekend, the shilling has exhibited extreme alpha, and in fact is probably the most stable, freely traded currency, not only in Africa at the moment, but in the world. Kenya shilling is at 103.70 last. Nairobi all shares up 14.91% year to date, but down 1.504% since the 27th of June. Stock market investors, I wrote over the weekend, are increasingly looking as if they're looking to take some chips off the table and book some gains. The NSE 20 is up 12.88% in 2017, but has corrected 27.27 points since the 23rd of June. BAT has been a significant underperformer. It was the most heavily traded share yesterday, but it's down 11.77% through 2017. Crown Paint's second best performer at the stock market. Talk about a share buyback has given the stock a lift. It's up 80.95% year to date. Olympic Capital Holdings, which is a very esoteric stock worth exactly $980,000, reported that its full-year earnings per share surged 150%. I don't have enough data on the company to make any opinion. And finally, let me leave you with a photograph from a photo essay in The Guardian. Enterprise and ingenuity thrive amid the waste in Nairobi. I wish you a great weekend.